On the 49th floor of Cole Tower, the city looked like a scatter of circuitry soldered to the night. The windows framed 1,000 blinking signals, cabs threading through wet streets, ferries inching across the black water, windows in other high-rises flickering like heartbeat monitors. Adrian Cole stood with his hands in his pockets and his reflection ghosted over the skyline. Impeccable suit, a face that magazines called steeled, the expression of a man who dreamed not with his eyes closed but with spreadsheets open. He'd taught himself to hear patterns in noise. As a kid in a Rust Belt town with a foreclosed main street, he'd counted the seconds between the clangs of a failing factory as if knowing the rhythm might change the ending. Later, at 18, he'd listened to the quiet in his mother's chest as it slowed in an ER that smelled faintly of bleach and defeat. If he could codify chaos, he decided he could tame it. In the decades since, he'd turned chaos into capital and capital into control. Control kept him alive. Control also kept him alone. 5 minutes, said Maya Chen from the doorway. She never knocked. People who knocked wanted something from him. People who didn't already had it. "The car is ready," he asked without turning. "It's already downstairs. Your remarks are on the teleprompter, though you know them." "I know them," he said, "because they were the same every year." The Cole Foundation would fund another round of scholarships, this time a new program for kids who had no one. Kids in group homes drifting between caseworkers, kids who could feel a closed door from across the room. He had signed off on the name, though he hated the word. Orphan. The gala smelled of citrus and catered benevolence. White uplighting washed the brick of the converted warehouse. Strings hummed like polite wind. Adrian took the stage to a modest swell of applause because real applause, like real grief, was always a little messy. He talked about opportunity and leverage and how, statistically speaking, a single mentor could change a child's lifetime earnings more than any tax break. He quoted numbers the way some men quoted scripture. People nodded. He nodded back. Afterward, donors approached him with soft hands and hard questions. He made the right sentences. He shook the right wrists. He posed with cardboard checks and kids whose names he'd memorized that afternoon. When the cameras drifted, his face softened into its resting vacancy. The events director tried to corner him with a video concept. He smiled and slipped toward the corridor that led to the garage elevator. Maya fell into step. "Good pull through the Q&A." "Thank you." The board chair of Harbor Tech asked if we'd consider hosting a joint event next quarter. "Send him 3 dates. Offer the one I actually want last." She smirked. "You like a challenge." "I like predictable outcomes," he said, and they stepped into the elevator. In the garage, cool air and the scent of rubber. The driver stood by the open door of the black sedan. The armor was discreet, the powertrain electric. Maya's phone lit her face. Adrian reached for the door. "Mr. Cole," a voice called. He paused. The driver looked up. A woman strode from the shadowed edge of the garage, heels skimming the oil-stained concrete. She carried a messenger bag that looked overused and underslept. She was maybe mid-30s, hair coiled into a purposeful knot, blazer that would have fit better if her budget did. "Do we know you?" Maya asked, already at Adrian's shoulder. "Evelyn Park," the woman said, breath measured. "I work with South Harbor Legal Aid. This is about one of your scholarship recipients." "Call the foundation," Maya said. "We have staff." "I tried. No one called back." Evelyn's eyes flicked to Adrian. "I'm sorry to ambush you. I wouldn't if it weren't urgent." Adrian disliked surprises in the same way cats disliked baths. He looked at Maya. 2 minutes, he said. If a fire broke in his house, he would first organize the exit plan. They stayed by the car. Evelyn slipped a creased envelope from her bag, the paper soft from handling. "Do you know a Nora Quinn?" she asked, and time slipped half a step sideways. He kept his face still. Inside, a map he'd folded once long ago uncreased itself. Nora Quinn. Summer rain off the pharmacy awning where they'd kissed because her apartment smelled like damp plaster and the landlord didn't fix things. Coffee in cracked mugs at the diner with the flickering O, how the O would sputter and catch, and she'd laughed and called it a heartbeat. The cramped room they'd painted the wrong shade of blue because the paint company mislabeled the can and they didn't have money for another. The night she'd left without saying goodbye because the past could be a tether. "I knew her," he said, the words unspooling carefully. She died 2 months ago, Evelyn said. The way she said it was a fact set beside other facts. Age 33, pneumonia, an apartment with 1 plant and 2 cups in the sink. Adrian's fingers curled. He let them relax. "I'm sorry," he said. He meant it like a man at a funeral home shakes hands and says the right thing because there is not a right thing. "She left a letter with us," Evelyn said, "to deliver if anything happened to her. It names you." She held the envelope out. His name, printed in Nora's tilt, he recognized it before his mind gave him permission. The sea and coal swooped rightward as if hurrying toward something better. "Maya," he said, not taking it. "I'll screen it," Maya murmured, but he shook his head. The past was already unscreened. He slid a thumb under the flap. Inside, a single page, folded twice. The paper smelled faintly of soap. A shadow, maybe the ghost of a coffee ring, stained the corner. He opened it. "Adrian, if you're reading this, it means something ended. I always hated endings. I should have told you 11 years ago, but I was 22 and stupid and terrified. I was not scared of you, never that. I was scared of becoming the woman who asks a boy who escaped to come back. I thought, noble, tragic, foolish, that letting you go was the kindest thing I could do. I told myself a story, that you were a comet and I would not be the gravity that pulled you off course. I told myself a lot of beautiful lies. There is a boy. His name is Liam. He has your eyes when you laugh, which I don't say to romanticize the way you laugh because it's mostly a soft exhale when something is truly funny and you think no one is watching. He knows about constellations and makes up names for the ones people forgot to name. He is the best part of me and the part of you I couldn't bear to keep from you forever. I am leaving this with a lawyer because it turns out life is held together with paper and a good pen. If something happens to me, please find him. Please don't let him be alone. If you can't, if you won't, if your world can't make room, let this be the apology I never learned to say out loud. I remember the O in the diner sign that wouldn't stay lit. The night the rain found us on the fire escape. Your hand on the paintbrush and how blue looked like the ocean we couldn't see from our street. N. He had no right to sit down in a garage that didn't belong to him, but he did anyway, lowering to the cool edge of the low concrete divider. The letter hung from his hand. 11 years pressed on his chest like a second ribcage. Maya was speaking, but the words blurred around the edges. Evelyn watched him with a public defender's practice of being both present and not intruding. She softened her voice. "There's more." He looked up. Liam's in a group home. Harbor House, over on 27th. He was with his mom. After she died, there wasn't family. Her mouth thinned. There was a boyfriend for a while. Not good. He's out of the picture. How old? The question sounded like a man who asked prices. 11. Time, again, did a thing to the room. The math hurt in a specific way. "Why come to me now?" Maya asked, crisp again. "Other than the letter." "Because there's trouble," Evelyn said. "A foster placement last year with a family that took in more kids than they should have. The dad, he owed people. Those people think the boy might be leverage, or a way to clear a debt. He's safe for now, but the system is a slow machine, and people who want something don't always wait for paperwork." Adrian felt something flick open behind his ribs, an old latch unclicking. He stood. "We'll go," he said. Maya blinked. "Now." "Now," he said. He handed Evelyn back the letter and then didn't. He folded it and slid it into his inside pocket as if it had always belonged there. "Come with us. You started this," he said, and then softened. "You cared enough to." Harbor House was a rectangle of brick that remembered better intentions. The lobby smelled like crayons and industrial cleaner. A mural of a tree cracked along one painted branch where the plaster had settled. A boy with hair like spilled ink sat under it, building a fort of copies of the same paperback. The receptionist looked up with the professional suspicion of someone who had learned to expect drama with every door. "We're here to see Liam," Evelyn said. "And you are?" The receptionist's eyes snagged on Adrian's suit, then on his face, as if she had seen a softened version of it on a magazine cover in a doctor's waiting room. She did not gasp or ask for a selfie. She had children to check in and caseworkers to page. "Evelyn Park, legal aid," Evelyn said, sliding her card across. "This is Adrian Cole," he said, because sometimes saying your name first put people at ease. It also sometimes did the opposite. "We won't take long." The receptionist's mouth did a small shape and then set itself. "Ms. Alvarez runs the floor." "I'll page her." Ms. Alvarez arrived with keycards clipped to her belt and an expression of fatigue that had learned to smile. "We don't usually have visitors," she said, ushering them down a hallway painted the yellow of good intentions. "He's bright." "Guarded." "Guarded is a high compliment," Evelyn said. "Depends on why," Ms. Alvarez said. They found him in the common room, an island of focus in a sea of motion. A TV muttered in a corner. Two little boys argued softly over a Lego spaceship with only one wing. A girl read with her nose nearly touching the page. At a table by the window, the boy from under the mural, Liam, studied a chessboard like a map of a war he had already lost in one future and saved in another. He didn't look up when they approached, which was the first sign he knew they were coming. "Liam," Ms. Alvarez said, "gentle." The boy's fingers hovered over a knight and then withdrew. He had a small crescent scar near his eyebrow, the kind that looked like it remembered corners. His hair fell into his eyes. He flicked it back impatiently. Up close, the familiarity hit Adrian not as a mirror but as an echo. The way the boy chewed the inside of his cheek while thinking, the way his left foot tapped when he was calibrating how much of himself to show. "You play?" Liam asked without preamble, still not looking up. "Badly," Adrian said, and Liam's mouth twitched like he appreciated honesty as a currency. "Play him," Ms. Alvarez said to Adrian, mischief and mercy in the same breath. "He needs opponents who aren't afraid to lose." "I am afraid to lose," Adrian said, and sat anyway. He loosened his jacket. The room smelled of dust and hand sanitizer. Evelyn and Ms. Alvarez drifted back, giving the moment room to be born or die. "You're on scholarship," Adrian said, moving a pawn. "Through our foundation." "People keep telling me that," Liam said, moving a pawn to meet it. His voice had summer gravel in it, the rasp kids get when they grow too fast and their feet can't keep up with their sentences. "It's weird. Having a thing. People look at you like the thing is you. What are you besides the thing?" Adrian asked. Liam glanced up then, a flash of wary amusement at the question. His eyes were a dark, unreadable hazel. "Depends who's asking." "A stranger." "Then I'm a kid who doesn't like milk, knows all the names of clouds, and gets told he's lucky a lot." "And when you answer for yourself?" Liam's mouth went thoughtful. "I'm a kid who wants a telescope," he said, and slid a bishop into a position that would punish Adrian in 3 moves if he didn't care for his back row. Adrian noticed. He adjusted. The game moved as if both of them were reading a conversation in a language that didn't have vowels. He felt, absurdly, the old shiver of joy he got when a market turned the way he knew it would because he had read the currents correctly. "Do you see the river from here?" Adrian asked. "From the fire escape," Liam said. "But Ms. Alvarez says the fire escape is for fires." "She's correct." "I like rules," Liam said. "They make good stories. You have to get out of them." Adrian's finger paused on a rook. He remembered Nora's handwriting. "He has your eyes when you laugh." He did not laugh now. He felt, instead, his face settle into an expression he did not recognize and did not want to name in a room with fluorescent lights. "You know why I'm here?" Adrian asked after a few more pauses. The board was a battlefield of losses and small salvations. "Because Ms. Park made you," Liam said. He misplayed a knight on purpose, testing. "Or because you're bored?" "Neither." He left the word hanging. "I knew your mom," he added, and watched the air change. Liam's hand stilled over a pawn. He kept his eyes on the board so hard it was like they were stitched to it. "A lot of people did," he said. The sentence had edges. He pushed the pawn like it owed him. "She made good spaghetti. She didn't like mushrooms, but she always put them on my side when we split pizza." "She used to call the diner sign Heartbeat," Adrian said quietly, unable to stop himself from offering proof to a boy who had been sold counterfeit truths. "Because the O flickered." Liam's eyes lifted, finally. He didn't soften. He diluted suspicion into analysis. He could have been 11 or 40. You shouldn't know that. No, Adrian said. I shouldn't. He looked at the boy and at the way the room seemed to know him, the kids who orbited, the staff who watched without staring. He wanted, irrationally, to fix everything about this place. The crack in the mural, the tear in the couch seam, the way the chess set was missing a white pawn and they were using a checker instead. He wanted to fix one thing. The way the boy said, "I'm lucky like a bruise says touch me." Evelyn came back with cups of water as if diplomacy could be hydrated. Ms. Alvarez fielded a question from a staffer and then, when she returned, asked as if it were a casual thing, "Are you family?" Adrian opened his mouth and then closed it. The truth lived in his jacket pocket and tasted like tin. Nora had asked. She had not commanded. "Please find him. Please don't let him be alone." "I'm looking into that," he said, and Ms. Alvarez's eyes did a professional flicker of comprehension. She did not smile, but something in her posture eased like maybe she'd unconsciously braced for worse. "Do the people who owe things know where you are?" Adrian asked Liam in a voice pitched for one person. Liam's face didn't change. "People owe things everywhere," he said. "Evasion as survival tactic. Sometimes I owe stuff too. Like Mr. Harrigan's pen I forgot to return last week. He pretended to be mad, but he wasn't really because he likes me." "What about men who drive black SUVs with windows you can't see through?" Adrian asked. Liam blinked. That told him something. He had not needed Maya's small cough behind him to know that the driver had radioed a note from the curb when they pulled up. Black SUV idling by the stop sign, driver with tattoos that crawled high enough to meet shaving cream, the wrong kind of stillness in a man pretending to check his phone. "Do you play Blitz?" Liam asked abruptly, scattering the meaning like a handful of pebbles thrown in a pond. Adrian responded by moving without pausing, letting him set the pace. The boy's hands moved like he was trying to outrun fear. The game ended in a messy draw that would have given purists hives, but made both of them look up with a breath they had forgotten to take. "Good game," Adrian said. "It was okay," Liam said, which was 11-year-old for I needed that. Adrian stood. "I'm going to have someone from my team bring you a telescope," he said. "Not as a bribe," he added when Liam's mouth quirked. "As a recognition of a fact." "What fact?" "That you know the names of clouds," he said. "And people look different under some." Liam studied him like a teacher had asked him to use a new word in a sentence. "Okay," he said, accepting the impossible like kids accept magic tricks because they know there's a card up a sleeve and that doesn't make the trick less good. Ms. Alvarez led them back to the lobby. Paperwork waited, always paperwork. Evelyn asked if she could photocopy the letter. Adrian said no and then yes and then no again. "I'll send you a copy tomorrow," he compromised, which was the kind of sentence a man says when he does not like to cede custody even of an idea. Outside, the night had pooled deeper. The black SUV at the corner had moved and then moved back, the way a shark might. The man in the driver's seat looked down when Adrian's car pulled up. He wore a cap low and an expression that was somehow at once blank and hungry. He tapped his phone. He did not take a photo. He would remember faces without one. "Increase security," Adrian said to Maya quietly as the sedan glided into traffic. "Add a car to the perimeter when I visit. Pull the footage from the street cams back to an hour before we arrived. License plates, make, model. If you can't run it openly, have Reed run it on the private servers." "You think the debt is real," Maya said. "Not a question." "I think entropy is real," he said, and looked at the reflection of his face in the window. The city smeared like oil on water. He slid 2 fingers over the pocket where Nora's letter lay. The paper crinkled, a heartbeat under cloth. "Do you want me to prep statements?" Maya asked. "If this becomes public." "I want you to prep a question," he said. "How quickly can we move for temporary custody when the letter is all we have and the mother is gone?" "Evelyn will know," Maya said. "But we'll need a paternity test." He nodded once, the kind of nod that signed things and made them real. "Schedule it. Quietly. Find a doctor who understands discretion." "And the boy?" Maya asked. "He is not a boy," Adrian said, surprising himself with the vehemence. "He is Liam." Maya's eyes softened. She had known him long enough to hear the minute distortion in his voice, how it swung between command and confession. Noted, she said. They passed the river. Lights lay on it like a road someone forgot to build. Adrian remembered a fire escape and rain that had found them anyway, his thumb smoothing a line of blue paint that would never dry quite right. He had chosen the market over the street, the tower over the tenement. He had written a story in which he had escaped gravity. And yet, a letter. A boy. A crack in the mural of the life he'd painted so cleanly. Back at Cole Tower, he did not go up. He told the driver to circle the block twice and then stop at the curb outside the side entrance. He stepped out into air that smelled like hot metal and the sweetness of a bakery that ran its ovens late. Evelyn followed, hugging her bag close to her. Maya took a call under the awning, voice clipped low. "You didn't have to come," Evelyn said, as if now that they had left the fluorescent safety of the home, she could say the thing that had crouched between them. "I know," he said. "I do a lot of things I don't have to." His mouth tilted. "And not enough of the ones I should." She looked at him hard. "He'll test you," she said. "He'll maybe even be mean. That's what kids do when they've learned that good things are sometimes traps." "I appreciate candor. And if the men in the SUV come back?" "They will," he said. "People who need money tend to be persistent. People who collect it more so." "And you?" she asked. "What kind are you?" "The kind that doesn't lose," he said before he could stop himself. The sentence tasted like old arrogance. He tried again. "The kind that will not allow a child to be leverage." Evelyn's shoulders loosened minutely. "All right," she said. "I'll start the paperwork in the morning. We'll need to list a next of kin. For now, I'll write potential paternal contact. They like phrases that sound like fences." "Write my name," he said. "They like names that sound like money." "Sometimes," she said, slinging the bag higher. "Sometimes they just like signatures." He signed the sidewalk with his footsteps back toward the car. Across the street, under the burnt-out street lamp, a second black SUV pulled up, this one older, the paint scuffed to dullness. The man behind the wheel, different from the first, rolled down his window to light a cigarette. He did it slowly, like a dare. He glanced at Adrian once. The glance was appraising, professional. He exhaled a long ribbon of smoke that moved like a thought. In Harbor House, in a room with 2 beds and a closet that sighed when you opened it, Liam lay awake. He had placed the battered paperback on his chest like a shield. He could hear the slow thunder of buses and the fast laugh of late teenagers, the whisper clicks of mice in the walls that he pretended were messages from other rooms. He had heard what the man in the good suit said. He had seen the way Ms. Alvarez stood a little closer to him while the man talked, the way her body did a thing that said, "if." He had watched the man's hands, how they stilled when he considered the next move and how they trembled, barely, once, as if a nerve under the skin remembered something it had not been asked to do in a while. He rolled onto his side and looked at the window. Through it, a sliver of sky. Somewhere, clouds he could name if he could see them. He whispered the names anyway to the dark like spells: Cirrus, Cumulus, Stratus, Nimbus. In the morning, he would tell Lucia to stop stealing the good pencils. He would win 2 games of chess against Mr. Harrigan and lose one on purpose so Mr. Harrigan would feel smart and tell the story about the time he delivered a pizza to a famous actor who tipped with a baseball card. He would not think about the SUVs or about debts that had other people's names attached to them like anchors. He would not think about the letter he had never seen, and the man who had known the O in the diner sign flickered like a heartbeat. At the corner by Harbor House, the first SUV returned. The tattooed man in the driver's seat looked at the door and at his watch. He saw the boy once through the second-floor window and then lost him when a curtain moved, a small resistance like a blink. He picked up his phone and called someone whose number he knew by muscle memory. He said, "Tomorrow," and the person on the other end said, "Don't come back without him." On the 49th floor of Cole Tower, Adrian finally rode the elevator up. The office still held the city the way a cup holds breath. He took the letter out and read it again, the script carving the night open in clean lines. He slid it into the safe behind the abstract painting because old habits liked old hiding places. Then he took it out again and left it on his desk, because new habits had to begin somewhere. Maya stepped in, uninvited in the way permission looks when it's earned. "We got the plate," she said. "It's a rental. Paid cash." The paper trail is the kind you buy in a back room. Send Reed, he said. Already did. She hesitated. We can keep this quiet for a little while. But not long. You know how the city eats secrets. It chokes on some, he said. Find out where the boy was placed last year. The Foster family. The father who owed. She nodded. And you? I'm going to sleep for 3 hours, he said, not lying but not telling the truth either. Then I'm going to buy a telescope. He was not the kind of man who believed in omens. But when he turned off the office lights, the city threw a small star back at him, just a plane in a neat arc, a satellite catching sun, something functional pretending to be magic. He watched until it slipped out of the patch of sky his window allowed. He did not make a wish. Wishes were for people who waited. He was done waiting. What he did not know, what no one knew that night except a man with a cheap phone and a better memory, was that before the end of the following day, someone would come to Harbor House with a story and a badge-shaped lie. They would say words that opened doors and words that closed them. And Liam, who had learned to read rules like maps, would have to decide which rule to break to make a new one that might save him. Adrian slept until the first alarm. He woke with a letter under his hand like a crease that would not iron out. He dressed in a suit that fit his body like a plan. He told his driver to take the long way along the river, the way the water made space around edges. He texted Evelyn 3 words, "I'm on board." He left the period off on purpose, as if promise belonged more to sentences that never ended. The city opened. Somewhere, a boy counted clouds he couldn't see, and men in cars checked watches that only told them stories about other men's money. The day had already started. Somewhere, something had already shifted. If he had listened closely enough, he might have heard it. Not quite a sound, more a pressure change, the way air feels right before a door opens. The next morning, Adrian Cole woke earlier than usual. It wasn't the alarm that stirred him, but the memory of hazel eyes measuring him across a chessboard. He lay still for a few seconds, listening to the hum of the city far below, and for the first time in years, the sound didn't feel like background noise. It felt like a clock ticking towards something inevitable. On his desk, the letter from Nora remained unfolded, as if it had been waiting all night for him to make a decision. His hand brushed over the paper. The words "Please don't let him be alone" stared back, not as a request, but as a challenge. By the time sunlight spilled between the towers, Adrian was in the back seat of his car, tie loosened, jacket open. Maya sat across from him, a tablet in her lap, flipping through documents. "We have an appointment with Dr. Elkins at 11, she said. "Private lab, discreet. He can run a paternity test and keep it off any public database until you're ready." Adrian nodded. "And Liam?" "Ms. Alvarez approved a supervised visit this afternoon. Evelyn will be there. Paperwork's in motion for a temporary guardianship petition, but you know the courts, slow, and the other side doesn't even exist yet." "They exist," Adrian said. His voice was flat. 2 SUVs don't just appear outside a group home by accident. Maya's mouth tightened. "Reed's running the plates. The first one's a rental out of Newark. Cash. The second, not in the system. Could be stolen, could be ghosted. Any connection to the Foster family from last year?" "We're still digging. That placement file is a mess. Names misspelled, no fingerprints on the adults. One alias matches a guy named Donnie Fenn. He's small-time muscle in a Jersey crew that runs numbers, protection, low-end collections. Debts under $5,000, mostly. But he's got a cousin doing time for extortion. Patterns don't happen by chance." Adrian glanced at the window, the river flashing silver in the morning sun. He didn't like patterns that touched Liam. By early afternoon, they were back at Harbor House. The lobby was noisier than yesterday. Kids returning from school, the shuffle of backpacks, the smell of warm crayons and reheated pizza. Ms. Alvarez met them with a look that said she'd been balancing too many balls since breakfast. "He's in the rec room," she said, then lowered her voice. "We had a situation earlier." Adrian's shoulders stiffened. "What kind of situation?" "Somebody called here asking for him. Said they were a relative. No name in the file, but they knew his first school, the name of a social worker he had 3 years ago. Creepy accurate. Staff didn't give anything away, but it rattled him. He's been quieter than usual. Adrian's jaw tightened. Show me the call log. She raised an eyebrow. I can't just. I'm not asking for gossip. I'm asking for anything that helps me keep him safe. His voice wasn't loud, but it had the weight of someone used to hearing the word yes. Ms. Alvarez hesitated, then said, I'll print what I can without violating policy. When they reached the rec room, Liam was at the same table by the window, this time sketching in a battered notebook. He looked up when Adrian approached, but his face didn't give much away. You came back, Liam said. I said I would. Adrian took the seat across from him. People say a lot of things. Liam's pencil moved again, tracing the outline of something. Adrian couldn't tell if it was a building, a cloud, or both. I'm not people, Adrian said. I'm me. That's what they all say, Liam replied without looking up. Adrian studied the boy. The guardedness wasn't just habit, it was armor, forged from disappointments too old for his age. What are you drawing? Nothing. That's a lot of lines for nothing. Liam glanced up, almost smirking. It's a map. A map to where? You don't get to know. Not yet. It was a test, and Adrian knew it. He didn't press. Fair enough. He reached into a slim case and pulled out a long, narrow box. I brought you something. Liam eyed it warily. Why? Because you said you wanted a telescope. Suspicion flickered in the boy's eyes, but curiosity won. He opened the box slowly, revealing a compact, high-quality scope. His fingers brushed over the polished metal like he was afraid it might vanish. You don't even know if I'm worth it, Liam said softly. I'll decide that myself, Adrian said. And for the record, you are. For the first time, something unguarded slipped into Liam's expression. It wasn't a smile, exactly, but it was close enough to make Adrian's chest tighten. They spent an hour together. Liam showed him how he marked constellations in his notebook, where each cloud type might drift on a given day. Adrian listened, asked questions, learned that the boy's favorite book was falling apart from rereading. But the moment cracked when a staff member hurried in, whispering something to Ms. Alvarez. Her expression hardened. What is it? Adrian asked. Someone's parked outside again, she said. Not staff, not parents on the list. Black SUV. Same one from yesterday, maybe. Adrian stood. Where? Across the street, near the corner. He looked at Maya, who was already tapping her earpiece, murmuring instructions to their security detail. I'll handle it, she said. But Adrian wasn't listening. He walked to the window and saw the vehicle, a dark shape idling too long, windows tinted beyond legal limits. A man sat in the driver's seat, head down, phone in hand. Liam joined him at the glass. They were here last week too, he said quietly. Adrian turned. Why didn't you say anything? Because telling doesn't always make things better, Liam replied. Sometimes it just makes more people mad. Adrian's stomach knotted. He'd spent a lifetime believing problems could be solved with enough leverage. But this wasn't leverage. This was a child deciding silence was safer. He knelt so they were eye level. If anyone comes near you, if anyone tries to talk to you, you tell me. Directly. No one else. Why? Because I'm not afraid of making people mad, Adrian said. For a moment, Liam searched his face like he was looking for cracks. Then he nodded, barely. Minutes later, Maya returned. They pulled away before we could get close. No plates on the front. Rear plate looks fake. We'll run it. Adrian straightened. We're accelerating custody paperwork. I'm not leaving him here for them to circle like vultures. Evelyn appeared in the doorway, holding a folder. That's going to take evidence, she said. We need to show the court there's a real threat. That means statements, police reports, maybe even putting Liam on the stand. Not happening, Adrian said sharply. I'm not dragging him through that. Then we need another angle, Evelyn replied. And fast. The day ended with reluctant goodbyes. Liam didn't ask when Adrian would be back. He just said, maps are better when you don't lose the compass. Adrian didn't fully understand until he was halfway to the car. That night, he didn't sleep much. In his mind, the black SUV kept idling, headlights like patient eyes. Morning at Cole Tower usually began with a hush, just the soft hum of the HVAC and the distant buzz of elevators, but on Thursday it felt different. Sunlight poured in low and golden, dusting the skyline like a promise no one could keep. Adrian was standing by the coffee machine in the executive lounge, scrolling through the overnight reports from his security team, when he noticed something, a brief notation, time-stamped 7:03 a.m., black SUV observed 3 blocks from Harbor House, same make/model as prior. He didn't read further before picking up his phone. "Read." "Already on it," came the reply. 2 guys inside. Same driver as before. Passenger unknown. They stayed 10 minutes, pulled away toward the waterfront. "Did they approach the building?" "No. But we both know they're testing the waters." Adrian set down his coffee untouched. "I'm heading over there. Keep your team close but invisible." By the time he reached Harbor House, the day was in full swing. Yellow buses idled outside, spitting kids onto the sidewalk. Liam was among the last to step off, backpack slung over one shoulder, gaze tilted toward the sky as if memorizing the shapes of clouds before the city swallowed them. Adrian was leaning against the fender of his sedan, casual as he could manage. When Liam spotted him, there was a flicker, something between surprise and something warmer, but it was gone in a heartbeat. "You're early," Liam said as he walked up. "I had business nearby." Adrian pushed off the car. "Thought I'd walk you in." Inside, the hallway smelled faintly of pencil shavings and floor wax. Kids darted around them toward classrooms and activity rooms. It was almost enough to convince him the outside world couldn't breach these walls. Almost. They stopped by the rec room, where Ms. Alvarez was taping up a paper banner for a weekend family day. Adrian caught the way her smile didn't quite reach her eyes. "What happened?" he asked under his breath. She glanced at Liam, then pulled Adrian a few steps aside. "One of the staff saw a man hanging around the corner this morning. Not one of the usual neighbors. Said he was waiting for a friend, but when she pressed, he walked off." Adrian's gut tightened. Description: tall, shaved head, leather jacket, tattoo on the side of his neck, looked like a bird, maybe a crow. It was too specific to be nothing. He made a mental note to read the details. Liam wandered toward the chess table in the corner, setting his backpack down. Adrian joined him, pulling a rook from the board and rolling it in his fingers. "I hear there's a family day this weekend." "Yeah." Liam didn't look up. "Not really my thing." "You don't like games?" "I like games. I don't like people pretending they're your family for a day and then disappearing." Adrian set the rook down carefully. "I'm not pretending." Liam's eyes flicked to him, searching. "We'll see." They played for a while, a slow-moving match. Kids came and went around them, laughter and footsteps blending into a low hum. It was almost peaceful, until Adrian noticed Liam's gaze shift toward the window. 2 men stood across the street. One was the shaved-head figure Ms. Alvarez had described. The other wore a baseball cap pulled low. They weren't looking directly at the building, but their bodies were angled just enough that Adrian knew they were watching. "Stay here," Adrian said, rising from his chair. "Where are you?" "Just stay here, Liam." His voice left no room for argument. He crossed the room to the window, angling himself so he could see without being obvious. The men were talking, their hands moving in sharp gestures. Then, as if sensing the scrutiny, the one in the cap lifted his head slightly. Even from here, Adrian felt the hit of that gaze, cold, measuring. Before he could move, the man smiled faintly and tapped 2 fingers to his temple in a mock salute. Then they turned and walked away, disappearing around the corner. Adrian's pulse was steady but high. He returned to the table, forcing his voice calm. "Change of plan. We're leaving early today." Liam frowned. "Why?" "Because sometimes the best move in a game is to change the board entirely." Ms. Alvarez approached, concern etched deep. "Everything all right?" "For now," Adrian said. "But I'll need to talk to you and Evelyn later. This place isn't secure enough if they're getting this close." She nodded grimly. "I'll keep extra eyes on him until then." Back in the car, Liam sat with his telescope box on his lap, fingers drumming against it. "You saw them, didn't you?" he asked without looking over. Yes. They're not here for you. No, Adrian admitted. They're here because of someone else's bad decisions. Liam was quiet for a long time. Then, if you keep showing up, they're gonna come for you too. Adrian glanced at him. That's a risk I'm willing to take. The boy didn't answer, but his grip on the box tightened. They spent the afternoon at one of Adrian's offices downtown, ostensibly to show Liam around, but really because Adrian trusted his own security more than any group home. Liam explored cautiously, drawn to the floor-to-ceiling windows and the silent, humming servers in the tech wing. At one point, while Adrian was on a call with Reed, he realized the room had gone too quiet. He stepped into the hallway and froze. Liam was standing near the elevator, talking to a man in a maintenance uniform. The man's back was to Adrian, but something in his posture was wrong. Too still, too focused. Adrian closed the distance fast. Everything okay here? The man turned, smiling easily. Just lost. Looking for the loading dock. This isn't it, Adrian said. His tone made the smile falter. Security will show you the way. As the man walked off with a guard, Adrian caught the faint outline of a tattoo peeking from under his collar, black feathers. He looked down at Liam. What did he say to you? Just asked if I liked living at Harbor House, Liam said. And if I wanted to see a better place. Adrian's jaw clenched. If anyone talks to you without my say-so, you walk away. Immediately. Understand. Liam hesitated, then nodded. But Adrian knew hesitation could get them both hurt. That night, long after Liam had been returned to Harbor House, Adrian sat in his office staring at the city lights. The calm from the morning was gone, replaced by a sharp, electric awareness. The game had changed. Somebody was making their opening move. And he wasn't about to play defense forever. Family Day at Harbor House was designed to look safe. Balloons knotted to folding tables, the smell of grilled burgers from a rented food truck, paper cups of lemonade sweating in the autumn sun. Staff moved between clusters of children and visitors, the noise of chatter and laughter almost loud enough to hide the nervous energy Adrian felt the moment he stepped out of his car. He spotted Liam near the basketball hoop, half listening to two other boys, his telescope case still clutched under one arm like an anchor. Thought you weren't into this, Adrian said when he reached him. I'm not, Liam said, eyes scanning the crowd. But Ms. Alvarez said I should try. Trying is overrated, Adrian murmured, but his gaze was already drifting over the people. Parents, distant relatives, volunteers. And somewhere, maybe, someone who didn't belong. Maya's voice crackled softly in his earpiece. 2 unverified entrants through the south gate 10 minutes ago. Casual clothes, no badges. Security is tracking. Adrian's jaw tightened. Stay close to me, he told Liam. For 20 minutes, he made small talk with staff, always keeping Liam in sight. The boy moved restlessly, bouncing between activities without settling. Adrian was halfway through answering a question from Evelyn about custody paperwork when he noticed it. Liam wasn't where he'd been. A shot of cold ran through him. He scanned the tables, the basketball court, the food truck line. Nothing. Then he caught sight of the back of Liam's head disappearing beyond the gate to the parking lot, walking beside a man in a dark hoodie. The man's hand rested lightly on Liam's shoulder, guiding. Adrian moved. The conversations around him blurred, the sound of the crowd thinning into a tunnel of focus. He crossed the yard in seconds, shouldering past a group of parents, and slipped through the gate without slowing. The parking lot was quieter, shadows stretching long between cars. The man in the hoodie was talking low, leaning toward Liam. Adrian caught the words, "Just over here, quick look," before his own voice cut in, sharp as glass. Liam. The boy froze. The man straightened, turning slowly. Shaved head, neck tattoo of black feathers. His eyes flicked over Adrian with something between recognition and calculation. "Who's this?" the man asked, voice flat. "I was about to ask you the same," Adrian said. He stepped closer, putting himself between the man and Liam. "You don't work here." The man smiled without warmth. "Kid's got family looking for him. Thought I'd help." "Funny," Adrian said. "I already found him." For a beat, no one moved. Then the man's smile dropped. "You should stay out of this suit." Not your world. Adrian leaned in just enough for his words to be private. You have no idea what my world is. But I can promise you, it's bigger than yours. Walk away. The man's gaze lingered, weighing risk against reward. Then he took a slow step back, palms up. We'll be in touch, he said, and slipped between two cars toward the street. Adrian turned to Liam. Are you hurt? No, Liam said, voice tight. He said he knew my mom. Adrian's chest constricted. Next time someone says that, you find me. Immediately. No matter what. Liam nodded, but his eyes were far away, shadowed by something deeper than fear. When they returned to the yard, Ms. Alvarez hurried over, relief flooding her face. We need to tighten the gate procedures, she said. That man. I know who he is, Adrian cut in. And he's not finished. Maya's voice returned in his ear. We got his image on the South Lot cameras. Sending to Reed. We'll have a name in an hour. But Adrian already knew the name didn't matter as much as the message. This was no longer about intimidation. They were ready to take him. That night, Adrian sat in his office long after the building had gone quiet, the city lights bleeding into the glass. He replayed the parking lot over and over, the way Liam's small frame looked beside that man, how close it had come to being too late. He picked up Nora's letter again, reading the last lines until the words blurred. Then he reached for his phone. Evelyn, he said when she answered, file whatever you have to. I'm not waiting for the courts anymore. The rain had started just after dusk, fine and steady, blurring the city into watercolor. Adrian sat at the head of the long glass table in his private conference room, jacket off, sleeves rolled, a cup of untouched coffee cooling in front of him. Maya stood by the floor-to-ceiling window, arms crossed, scanning the wet streets below. Evelyn was across from him, a slim file open, papers spread like a hand of cards neither of them wanted to play. This isn't a negotiation anymore, Adrian said, his voice low but certain. They came within 30 feet of taking him. That's it. He's not going back there. Evelyn tapped the file. I agree. But legally, pulling him out without court approval could backfire. We need a temporary guardianship order, even an emergency one, or they'll accuse you of abduction. Adrian's jaw tightened. And how long does that take? Best case. 48 hours if the judge is sympathetic. Longer if they want more proof. Maya turned from the window. We may not have 48 hours. Reed's team tracked the man from the parking lot. His name is Sean Crow Delaney. Low-level enforcer for a mid-tier outfit called the Van Ness Crew. They don't usually mess with kids, but they do collect debts. And guess whose name is in their ledger? Evelyn's brows knit. The foster father. Bingo, Maya said. 50 grand. Long gone. Crow's not going to stop circling. And if they think Liam's worth something, they'll try again. Adrian pushed the coffee aside. Then we don't wait. We create our own emergency. Evelyn gave him a wary look. What does that mean? It means I'm going to Harbor House tonight with a signed agreement from the director, moving him into my custody under the pretext of, let's call it protective supervision pending a court order. We make it sound official enough to hold until we make it official. That's risky, Evelyn said. Adrian met her eyes. So is leaving him there. Silence stretched, broken only by the patter of rain against glass. Finally, Evelyn exhaled. All right. I'll draft the paperwork. It won't be bulletproof, but it'll hold for a day or two. Good, Adrian said, already rising. We leave in 30 minutes. Harbor House was quiet under the rain, the kind of quiet that feels thin, ready to tear. Ms. Alvarez met them at the side entrance, her expression somewhere between relief and apprehension. I can't authorize this, she whispered. You can acknowledge you believe there's a credible threat to his safety, Adrian replied, handing her Evelyn's draft. That's all I need. She scanned the paper, sighed, and signed. He's in his room. Packing won't take long. He doesn't have much. Liam was sitting cross-legged on his bed, the telescope propped beside him, a paperback open on his knees. When Adrian stepped in, the boy looked up, reading his face before saying a word. We're leaving. Yes, Adrian said. Tonight. Liam closed the book without marking the page, slid it into his backpack, and picked up the telescope. Okay. No questions, no protest. Just that one word, and Adrian felt the weight of it. 10 minutes later, they were back in the car, Maya in the front seat, Adrian and Liam in the back. Rain streaked the windows, neon reflections sliding across Liam's face as he watched the city pass. They were halfway to Adrian's penthouse when Maya's voice cut through the hum of the tires. "We've got a tail." Black SUV, 2 cars back. Adrian leaned forward. "Is it them?" "Same model, same plate as this afternoon," Maya said. "And they're closing." Liam's grip on the telescope tightened. "It's Crow," he said quietly. "Driver," Adrian ordered, "take 9th, then the ramp to the bridge. Let's see if they follow." They did. Maya spoke into her comm, and 2 unmarked sedans from Adrian's private security fell in behind the SUV. For several blocks, it was a slow-motion chase, rain-slick streets reflecting headlights like molten metal. Then, at a red light, the SUV suddenly surged forward, cutting between cars, pulling alongside them. Adrian caught a glimpse of Crow in the passenger seat, window down, eyes locked on Liam. The light turned green. Their driver punched the accelerator, but so did the SUV. For a few tense seconds, they were side by side, engines roaring, until one of Adrian's security cars swerved in, forcing the SUV to brake hard. Maya didn't look back. "They're boxed in. We can lose them." But Adrian's gaze stayed on Crow's face as it disappeared in the mirror. Crow didn't look frustrated. He looked patient. It was past midnight when they finally reached Adrian's penthouse. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed a city still dripping with rain. Liam stood by the glass, telescope in hand, scanning the skyline as if it might hold answers. "You're safe here," Adrian said. "For now," Liam replied, not turning. Adrian walked over, crouching so they were at eye level. "For as long as it takes." The boy studied him for a long moment, then asked, "Why do you care? You didn't even know I existed." Adrian thought about Nora's letter, about the look in Crow's eyes, about how easily the world could take something from you if you let it. "Because I do now," he said simply. Before Liam could reply, Maya stepped in from the hallway, her face tight. "We have a problem. Reed just ID'd the man bankrolling the Van Ness Cruise debt collections." Adrian straightened. "Who?" Maya's gaze didn't waver. "Michael Soren." The name hit Adrian like a punch. Old rival. Older enemy. A man who had lost to him in business a decade ago and never forgot it. And now, apparently, he wanted to collect a different kind of debt. Adrian hadn't heard Michael Soren's name spoken aloud in nearly 10 years, but it still carried the metallic aftertaste of unfinished war. The man had once been his most formidable rival, a venture capitalist with a taste for hostile takeovers and a smile sharp enough to draw blood. Their last battle had ended with Adrian on top and Soren stripped of half his empire. Publicly, Soren had vanished into private investments. Privately, Adrian had assumed he was licking his wounds somewhere far from the boardroom floor. Apparently, he'd been plotting. Maya laid a dossier on the table between them. Soren's been bankrolling the Van Ness crew for the past 3 years. Mostly to move money under the radar. But in the last 6 months, he's been expanding their scope. More muscle, more reach. He's built a pipeline of favors owed. My guess. He heard about Liam through that debt in the Foster family. And then, she tapped the folder. He connected the dots. Adrian flipped through the file. Grainy surveillance shots of Soren at a marina, shaking hands with a man whose face was blurred. Copies of shell company registrations, each folding into the next. Receipts for cash withdrawals in just the right amounts to pay for SUVs, weapons, men like Crow. He doesn't need the money, Adrian said. So this isn't about debt collection. This is about me. Maya nodded. And if I know Soren, he'll want you to know it. He'll come in close enough to let you smell the match before he lights it. Adrian stood. Set it up. Evelyn frowned from her seat in the corner. Set what up? A meeting. You think he'll just agree to meet you? I think he's been waiting for me to ask. The meeting took place 2 nights later at a private club in Midtown. The kind of place where the air smelled faintly of old leather and older secrets, and the walls held more power in their wood grain than most nations' governments. Adrian arrived first, flanked by two of his men who melted into the background like well-trained shadows. Soren made an entrance. Tall, immaculately dressed, silver threading his dark hair like deliberate brushstrokes. His smile was exactly as Adrian remembered, practiced charm over a foundation of contempt. "Adrian Cole," Soren said, taking the seat opposite. "You look good. Success agrees with you." "Some of us don't need revenge to feel alive," Adrian replied. Soren's smile deepened. "Ah, but revenge is such an excellent motivator. You took something from me once. More than money, more than a company. You took the narrative. And I've been waiting for the right punctuation." "This isn't about me," Adrian said. "It's about a boy who has nothing to do with your vendetta." Soren leaned forward. "Every good strategist knows you don't strike the fortress. You strike what the fortress protects. You've built a reputation, Adrian. A man of control, precision, strength. What happens to that reputation when the public sees you fail to protect your own blood?" Adrian's hands curled into fists under the table. "Touch him, and I will dismantle you piece by piece. Slowly." Soren's eyes glinted. "Then you'd better move quickly. Because in games like this, hesitation is just another word for surrender." The meeting ended without a handshake. Back at the penthouse, Liam was by the window again, telescope aimed at the night sky. He didn't turn when Adrian walked in. "Maya said you went to see someone dangerous," Liam said. Adrian froze. "She shouldn't have." "I'm not stupid," Liam cut in. "If they're after me because of you, then maybe I shouldn't be here. Maybe I should go back. Make it stop." "That's not how this works," Adrian said, crossing the room. "It is how it works." Liam's voice cracked, anger and fear tangled together. "Every time I get somewhere good, somebody wants to take it away. If it's not me they're after, it's the people near me. And you're like a giant target." Adrian dropped to one knee so they were eye level. "Listen to me. You are not the reason they're coming. They're coming because a small man wants to hurt me and thinks you're the way to do it. I won't let him win. Not at the cost of you." Liam's gaze wavered. "You can't watch me every second." "Then I'll make sure there's no second you're in danger," Adrian said. They stood in silence until Liam looked back through the telescope. "There's a storm coming," he said quietly. "You can tell by the clouds." Adrian knew he wasn't talking about the weather. At 2 a.m., Maya woke him with a call. "Reed's team just intercepted Shatter," she said. "Soren's moving something tomorrow. Could be Crow, could be someone worse. They're using the waterfront as a staging point." Adrian looked at the skyline, black and still. "Then tomorrow, we end this." But in the quiet that followed the call, he felt it, that subtle shift in the air, the one Liam had warned about. The storm wasn't just coming. It was already here. The morning after Maya's call was a sharp, brittle kind of cold. The sky was a flat, merciless gray, the city moving beneath it in that hurried way that made everyone look like they were trying to get out from under something heavy. Adrian was in his study, reviewing contracts with one eye while keeping the other on a live security feed of the penthouse. Every entrance, every hallway, Liam's room. Liam was still asleep, tangled in the blankets, telescope by his bed like a sentry. For a fleeting moment, Adrian let himself believe the night might pass without incident. At 9:17 a.m., that belief shattered. Maya's voice burst through the intercom. "We have a breach. Service entrance, east side. 2 hostiles inside." Adrian was already moving, phone in hand. "Lock down the floor. Get Liam into the safe room." "I'm on it," she said, but there was tension in her voice. Too much. Adrian hit the hallway at a run, his mind cataloging the floor plan. The service entrance led through the kitchen, which meant the intruders would reach the living area in under 2 minutes. Liam's room was on the opposite side, but the safe room access was in Adrian's private office, too far if they were already inside. He rounded the corner just in time to see Liam step out of his room, barefoot, hair mussed. "What's going on?" "Back inside," Adrian ordered. But before Liam could move, a shadow detached itself from the far end of the hall. "Crow." The man's smile was slow, deliberate. "Morning, kid." Adrian put himself between them. This ends here. Crow's eyes flicked to the corners of the ceiling. Nice cameras. Shame if something happened before they caught it. Maya's voice crackled in Adrian's earpiece. 2 more outside the main door. We're engaging. Liam, Adrian said without looking back, go to my office. Now. The boy hesitated. But, go. Adrian's tone left no room for argument. Crow stepped closer, hands loose at his sides. Soren says hello. Adrian moved fast, faster than Crow expected, slamming him into the wall. But Crow was muscle for a reason. He twisted out, landed a punch to Adrian's ribs that made his vision flash white. Somewhere behind him, he heard the sound of a door closing. Liam, obeying. Good. Security arrived seconds later, 2 of Adrian's men pinning Crow while Maya's voice came through again. Perimeter secure. Police en route, but... She didn't finish, because they both knew Crow wouldn't be carrying ID, and whatever name he gave the cops wouldn't stick. By the time the police arrived, Crow was smirking through split lips, already crafting his alibi. Adrian didn't bother to watch him go. His focus was on Liam, who was sitting on the edge of the safe room cot, gripping the telescope like a weapon. I told you, Liam said quietly, you can't watch me every second. Adrian knelt in front of him. Then I'll make sure there isn't a second they can reach you. But even as he said it, he knew it wasn't enough. That evening, in the war room, what his staff called the secured conference space in the sublevel of Cole Tower, Reed spread a series of photos across the table. Crow didn't just find the service entrance by accident. Someone gave him the access schematic. Adrian's eyes narrowed. Internal. Reed hesitated. The schematics aren't public. That means it's someone with clearance. Could be a contractor, could be. Could be one of ours, Maya finished grimly. Adrian looked between them. Find them. I don't care how long it takes. Because now it was clear, Soren wasn't just testing defenses, he had someone inside helping him dismantle them. And that meant the next move wouldn't just be dangerous. It would be devastating. The war room at Cole Tower had no windows, only screens, 8 of them, flickering with live feeds, document scans, maps marked with red pins. The air was cool, recycled, and heavy with the scent of burnt coffee and adrenaline. Adrian stood at the head of the table, jacket off, sleeves rolled, scanning the feed from the service entrance over and over again. Reed, seated 2 chairs down, clicked through angles. Crow knew exactly which corridor to take, which cameras to avoid, and the timing between patrols. That doesn't happen unless someone gave him the blueprint and the schedule. Maya leaned forward, tapping a file. We've narrowed the list to 6 people with full clearance, 3 contractors from the original build, 2 security supervisors, and 1 of ours. Adrian's jaw clenched. Name. She hesitated. Connor Hale. Adrian knew the name. Hale had been with his security detail for almost 5 years. A quiet man, ex-military, no red flags. He'd trusted him with more than his safety. He'd trusted him with discretion. Where is he now? Adrian asked. Off shift. His tracker pinged near the waterfront this morning, then went dark. Adrian's mind was already running scenarios. If Hale had flipped, Soren's reach was deeper than he'd thought. Before he could respond, Evelyn burst in, tablet in hand. We have a bigger problem. Soren's lawyers just filed an emergency petition in family court, motion for temporary guardianship of Liam. The room went silent. Adrian stared at her. On what grounds? They're claiming you're a security risk. That the incident with Crow proves Liam's not safe in your custody. They've packaged it with a stack of expert statements from so-called child safety advocates, most of them on Soren's payroll. Evelyn dropped the tablet onto the table. First hearing is in 48 hours. Maya swore under her breath. He's not just playing muscle, he's playing optics. If this hits the media... It won't, Adrian cut in, though he knew it already had. Reed switched one of the screens to a news feed. There it was, a local channel running grainy footage from outside the penthouse, with a chirrun that read "Violence at Home of Billionaire Guardian." The clip replayed a dozen times, each loop making it look worse. They're framing it, Evelyn said quietly. By the time we get to court, the narrative will be set. Adrian felt the pressure building behind his eyes. He could dismantle companies in a day, move markets with a sentence. But here, in this arena, the rules bent to whoever could cry the loudest to the right judge. Then we change the narrative, he said. If Soren wants a spectacle, we give him a different one. Maya's eyes narrowed. You're thinking public. I'm thinking controlled public, Adrian said. We leak just enough to show Crow's connection to Soren, make it clear this isn't about Liam's safety, it's about revenge. Evelyn crossed her arms. That's a gamble. If it backfires, it'll look like you're using the boy as a prop. Adrian met her gaze. I'm not using him. I'm protecting him. There's a difference. That night, Adrian found Liam in the penthouse kitchen, sitting on the counter with a mug of hot chocolate, legs swinging. You're not asleep, Adrian said. Too loud, Liam replied. Not the city. The people here. I can hear them walking around, talking low, like something's about to happen. Adrian leaned against the counter. Something is about to happen. But not to you. Liam's brow furrowed. You can't promise that. I can promise I'll fight harder than anyone else could, Adrian said. For a moment, Liam looked like he wanted to argue. Then he just nodded and took another sip of cocoa. The next morning, Reed walked in with a flash drive and an expression Adrian didn't like. We pulled more from the security logs. Hale accessed restricted files 3 days ago, files on Liam's schedule, his school visits, even the floor plan here. And then, Reed slid the drive across the table. He forwarded them to a burner address tied to one of Soren's shell companies. Adrian's stomach turned cold. One of ours, he said softly. Maya's voice was hard. We bring him in. Adrian looked toward the glass doors of the war room, past them to the city sprawling beyond. He thought of Liam's telescope, pointed at a sky where dangers looked small only because they were far away. No, he said finally. We follow him. He's not just a leak, he's a pipeline. And I want to know exactly what Soren's planning to send through it. The storm, Adrian realized, wasn't coming anymore. It was already inside. Connor Hale didn't know he'd been burned. At least, Adrian hoped he didn't. The man still walked into work with the same easy gait, still nodded at the security desk like he didn't have a tether running straight to Michael Soren. From the war room, Reed kept a live feed on Hale's movements. He's got a meet scheduled at Pier 47 this afternoon, he said. Public enough to feel safe. Private enough to talk business. Adrian adjusted his cuffs. We'll be there before he is. Maya raised an eyebrow. And when Soren's people show, we watch, Adrian said. We listen. And when we have what we need, we cut the line. Pier 47 was a weathered stretch of dock on the city's industrial edge, where the air smelled of salt, diesel, and old rope. Adrian and Maya were in an unmarked SUV 2 blocks back, their windows cracked just enough to hear gulls and the occasional metallic groan of a shifting ship. Hale arrived first, hands in the pockets of a Navy windbreaker. He leaned against a rusting bollard, scanning the horizon like a man killing time. 10 minutes later, a black sedan rolled up. The passenger door opened, and a man stepped out, tall, lean, hair slicked back. Not Soren. But the cut of his suit screamed middle management in a criminal empire. Maya tapped her earpiece. Audio coming through. Shipments ready by Friday, the suited man was saying. Soren wants confirmation the boy will be available. Adrian's stomach tightened. Hale shifted his weight. That's not my end. I just make sure the windows stay open. And you'll keep doing that, the suited man said, or you'll find yourself in the same place we found your brother. Maya's eyes flicked to Adrian. Brother. He filed it away. A lever, maybe. They were about to get more when Reed's voice cut in sharp. Boss, we've got a situation. Liam's school just triggered a code yellow. Security breach. Adrian was already opening the door. Details. Unidentified male tried to sign him out. Had his full name, your name, even a forged authorization. Staff stalled him, but he's gone. The doc vanished behind Adrian as they sped toward the school. Every block felt longer than the last. When they arrived, the front entrance was locked down, police cars parked haphazardly on the curb. Ms. Alvarez was inside, talking to an officer. She'd been shadowing Liam at school per Adrian's orders. "He's safe," she said as soon as she saw him. They never got near him. But they knew too much. His schedule. Which classroom? The security questions. Adrian's mind went cold. Hale's leak. It had to be. Liam was in the principal's office, hunched in a chair, the telescope case leaning against his leg. He looked up when Adrian entered. "It's them, isn't it?" "Yes," Adrian said. "But they won't get close again." "You can't promise." "I can," Adrian said, cutting him off. "Because I'm ending this." Liam's eyes searched his face, as if trying to decide if he meant it. Back at Cole Tower, Maya reported in. "We lost the suited man after you left. But Reed got partial plates on the sedan. It's registered to a holding company in Delaware. Guess who owns it?" "Soren," Adrian said. "And there's more," Maya continued. "That meeting at Pier 47? They weren't just talking about taking Liam. They're moving something big on Friday. Could be money, could be leverage. Either way, Soren's betting you'll be too busy protecting the boy to interfere." Adrian looked at the skyline. Friday was 2 days away. 2 days to dismantle an enemy who'd been building this play for years. 2 days to keep Liam out of reach. 2 days before the next strike. And Adrian Cole wasn't planning to waste a single hour. The summons came at 6:42 a.m., delivered by a court officer who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. Adrian was in the kitchen with a half-finished coffee when Maya brought it in. "Emergency hearing," she said, setting the envelope on the counter. "Today. Noon." Adrian slid it open, scanning the terse language. Petitioner: Michael Soren. Motion: temporary guardianship of minor, Liam Quinn. Grounds: demonstrable risk to child safety under current custodian. Hearing in Department 7 Family Court, in less than 6 hours. "They're accelerating," Maya said. "They know Friday's too far away." Adrian's mind was already splitting in two, half on the legal fight, half on Pier 47, and the shipment Reed was still tracking. Evelyn arrived 15 minutes later, already on the phone with a clerk. "We can argue jurisdiction. Harbor House is in another district. You pulled him under protective supervision. That might buy time." She hung up. But if the judge is hostile, Soren could walk out with a temporary order today. "Not happening," Adrian said. "We go in with evidence. Crow's break-in. The forged authorization at the school. The fact that the same network is tied to Soren." Evelyn's expression was grim. "Right now, that's circumstantial. He'll spin it as coincidence, or worse, your enemy's targeting you through the boy." "That's exactly what it is," Adrian said. She didn't disagree, but her silence said it all. Truth wasn't enough in this room. By noon, Adrian was walking into family court in a charcoal suit, Liam beside him in a pressed shirt that made him look smaller than he was. Cameras were already waiting outside, reporters calling questions. Adrian ignored them, one hand on Liam's shoulder, guiding him inside. Soren was already there, flanked by a trio of lawyers in tailored suits. He smiled as Adrian entered, the kind of smile meant to be seen. The judge, a woman with sharp eyes and a sharper gavel, opened the proceedings with clipped efficiency. Soren's lead counsel spoke first, painting a picture of a reckless billionaire bringing danger into a child's life, armed intrusions, car chases, shadowy business associates. When it was Evelyn's turn, she stood straight, voice steady. "Your Honor, what Mr. Soren omits is that every one of these incidents originated from his own network. The men who attempted to breach Mr. Cole's residence are tied to the Van Ness crew, a group Mr. Soren has financially supported for years." Soren's lawyer objected, citing lack of admissible proof. The judge sustained, and the point fell like a stone into silence. Liam sat stiff beside Adrian, eyes darting between speakers. After 2 hours, the judge recessed until the following morning, citing insufficient clarity to make an immediate ruling. It was a reprieve, but a short one. Back at Cole Tower, Reed was waiting in the war room. Pier 47 shipments moved up. "It's not Friday anymore, it's tonight. 9 p.m. Adrian's pulse quickened. "You're sure?" "Positive. Hale just texted the go signal to Soren's guy. We traced it." Maya frowned. "If we hit them tonight, it's risky. You've got court again in the morning." If anything blows back. I don't care, Adrian said. We take them tonight. If we can tie that shipment directly to Soren, we walk into court tomorrow with more than just accusations. Evelyn looked uneasy. And if it's a trap? Adrian met her gaze. Then we spring it on our terms. At 7:45 p.m., as the city lights bled into the harbor, Adrian stood on the deck of an unmarked boat anchored just out of sight of Pier 47. Through binoculars, he watched forklifts moving crates into the yawning mouth of a cargo container. Hale was there, pacing near the edge, talking to the same suited man from before. Maya's voice came through the comm. We've got 3 armed on the dock, 2 more in the warehouse. Your call. Adrian lowered the binoculars. Wait for the transfer. I want the whole chain in the shot. But just as the first crate was loaded, Reed's voice cut in from the war room. Boss, you need to hear this. Soren's team is filing an emergency motion tonight. They're trying to get an overnight order to pull Liam before the morning hearing. Adrian's grip tightened on the binoculars. Where is he now? At the penthouse, Reed said. But if they get the order, they can walk in with police. Maya's voice was sharp. We have to move, either on the shipment or to protect him. We can't do both at once. Adrian looked back at the dock, at Hale, at the crates that might hold the proof he needed. Then he thought of Liam, sitting by the window with that telescope, waiting for him to come back. The seconds stretched. Adrian, Maya said. He made his choice. The rain had turned hard by the time Adrian left Pier 47, each drop hitting the deck of the boat like a ticking clock. He pulled the hood of his coat up, phone pressed to his ear as the skyline blurred in the distance. Maya, he said, voice sharp, status on Liam. He's still at the penthouse, she replied, the wind muffling her words. 2 security on his floor, 3 on rotation in the lobby. But Reed just confirmed. Soren's lawyers got an after-hours judge to sign a temporary order. Police are en route. Adrian's jaw clenched. How long? 10 minutes, maybe less. He looked back toward the pier. Forklifts were still moving under the harsh glare of floodlights. Hale was pacing, checking his phone. The crates were lined up like dominoes, ready to disappear into the cargo container. Evidence he needed, evidence that could win tomorrow's hearing. Maya, he said, you and Reed stay on the dock. Get whatever you can on record. Video, photos, serial numbers, anything that ties this to Soren. Then vanish before they know you're there. And you? She asked. I'm getting to Liam. The boat cut through the black water toward the marina, engine growling under the storm. The moment it hit the slip, Adrian was in the SUV, tires hissing against the wet asphalt as they tore through the city. By the time they reached Cole Tower, the flashing lights of 2 patrol cars painted the rain-slick street. Officers were already in the lobby, papers in hand. Adrian didn't break stride as he entered, the lead officer stepping forward. Mr. Cole, we have a court order. I know exactly what you have, Adrian cut in. And you know it's based on contested evidence that will be addressed in the morning hearing. The officer's tone was measured. Until then, the order stands. We're here to take custody of the minor. Over my dead body, Adrian said, voice low enough to be dangerous. Behind him, the elevator chimed, and 2 more officers stepped out with one of his security men shadowing them. Liam was standing just inside the doorway to the penthouse hall, telescope in one hand, eyes wide. Adrian, he asked, confusion edging into fear. It's okay, Adrian said, not taking his eyes off the officers. Go back inside. Sir, the lead officer said, don't make this harder. What's hard, Adrian replied, is explaining to a child why strangers are trying to take him from the only safe place he's had in years, based on the word of a man who bankrolls criminals. One of the officers shifted uncomfortably. The lead held his ground. If you obstruct, you'll what? Arrest me. That'll look great when the truth comes out. The tension stretched, the rain drumming against the glass behind them. Finally, the officer exhaled. We'll be back in the morning. With backup. They left without Liam, but Adrian knew this was only a delay. An hour later, Maya returned from Pier 47 with a hard drive. We got it, she said, setting it on the table. Bills of lading, cargo manifests, and clear video of Hale handing off documents to Soren's guy. It's enough to connect him to the shipment. Adrian allowed himself one breath of relief. Then tomorrow, we walk into court with more than words. But Reed, standing in the doorway, didn't look convinced. You should see the news, he said. On the wall screen, a late-night broadcast was already running with the headline, Cole blocks court order to remove minor amid criminal allegations. They were using the footage from the lobby, Adrian facing down the officers, Liam in the background, looking lost. Soren had won the first battle in public opinion. Adrian stared at the screen, the storm outside mirrored in his eyes. Then tomorrow, he said quietly, we stop playing defense. Morning came gray and raw, the kind of morning where the city seemed to hold its breath. Adrian stood in the penthouse kitchen, suit jacket over one arm, coffee untouched. Liam sat at the counter, picking at a piece of toast without eating it. You don't have to come, Adrian said. I'm not staying here without you, Liam replied, eyes fixed on the toast. Adrian didn't argue. By 8:45 a.m., they were back in family court. The media presence outside had doubled since the night before. Cameras tracked their every step, the low thrum of reporters' voices like static under Adrian's skin. Inside, Evelyn arranged her files with deliberate precision, Maya sitting 2 rows back with a secure case in her lap, the hard drive from Pier 47. The judge entered, and the room settled into tense silence. Soren was already there, immaculate as ever, his lawyers radiating confidence. Evelyn spoke first, presenting the evidence. Clear video of Hale on the pier, handing documents to a man directly tied to Soren's holding company, bills of lading showing illicit cargo routed through shell entities linked to Soren's accounts. This is not conjecture, Evelyn said firmly. This is proof that the petitioner is directly connected to a criminal network that has already targeted this child. The judge studied the screen as the video played. Soren's expression didn't flicker. When it was his turn, his lead counsel rose smoothly. Your Honor, the respondent's evidence is impressive in its theatrics, but what it fails to show is any direct connection between my client and these events. What it does show is the lengths Mr. Cole will go to, unsanctioned surveillance, private operations in violation of state law, and the involvement of known criminals as informants. Evelyn objected, but the lawyer pressed on. And finally, he slid a document onto the table for the judge. We submit into evidence a sworn affidavit from a former associate of Mr. Cole, alleging that he has used his financial influence to conceal incidents of violence in his personal life, including those that endangered minors. Gasps rippled through the courtroom. Adrian felt the weight of every eye. That's a fabrication, he said evenly. The judge held up a hand. Mr. Cole, you'll have an opportunity to respond. For now, this raises substantial questions that this court must consider. She turned to both counsel. Given the seriousness of the new allegation, I am ordering a recess. We will reconvene in 48 hours. It was a delay, but delays could be fatal in this game. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Soren stopped just long enough to give a statement about putting the welfare of the child first, his voice dripping with false sincerity. The clips would run on every evening broadcast. In the SUV, Liam sat silent, staring out at the gray city. If they think you're dangerous, he said quietly, maybe I should just go. Before it gets worse. Adrian looked at him, the words sharp in his chest. You're not going anywhere. Not like that. Not on his terms. But what if he's right? About me being safer somewhere else? Adrian didn't answer immediately. Safer doesn't mean better, he said finally. And it doesn't mean loved. Liam didn't look at him. Back at Cole Tower, the war room was waiting. Reed's face was tight. We've got a new problem. One of our security supervisors, Anthony Vega, didn't report in this morning. Trackers offline. And the last ping was 2 blocks from Soren's Midtown office. What did he have access to? Adrian asked. Reed hesitated. Full internal logs. Entry codes. And the off-site archive. Adrian's mind snapped into cold clarity. The off-site archive held everything. Decades of contracts, correspondence, private records. Enough to build or destroy anyone in his orbit. Maya looked at him. If Soren gets that. He won't, Adrian said, though in his gut he knew this was the move Soren had been setting up all along. The storm wasn't just at the door anymore. It was in the room. The war room was already humming when Adrian stepped in. Reed had a live map on the central screen, a pulsing red dot moving slowly across the west side of the city. "That's Vega?" Adrian asked. "Last ping from his burner," Reed confirmed. "He's staying low, no credit cards, no personal phone. But he's not trained to vanish. We've got him on 3 different street cams in the last hour." Maya was at the far end of the table, scrolling through intercepted messages. "We think he's heading toward a storage facility on 11th. One of Soren's shell companies owns a unit there. If he's moving the archive, that's the drop point." Adrian glanced at the time. "We move now. 2 teams, 1 with me, 1 on the perimeter. If Vega sees us coming, he'll spook." "And Liam?" Maya asked. "He stays here," Adrian said without hesitation. "Locked down, full detail." They were halfway to 11th when Reed's voice came through the comm. "Boss, we've got a situation. Liam's not in the penthouse." Adrian's grip on the wheel tightened. "Explain." "He went downstairs with one of the junior security guys, said he wanted fresh air. Camera shows them stepping out onto the side street 5 minutes ago." "Get him back inside," Adrian ordered, but even as he said it, a new voice cut in, Maya from the perimeter van. "Adrian, we've got movement on that side street." Black sedan just pulled up, door open. Liam had only meant to stand under the awning for a few minutes. The city felt different from down here, closer, louder, the air heavy with rain that hadn't quite fallen yet. The junior guard, Blake, was checking his phone when the black sedan rolled to a stop at the curb. A man leaned out, smiling like he knew them. "You Liam? Your uncle sent me, wants to talk." Blake stepped forward. "That's not." The rear door flew open, and another man stepped out fast. Blake shoved Liam back just as the man reached for him. The sidewalk turned into a blur of movement, shouts, the screech of tires, the sharp pain in Liam's wrist as someone grabbed him. Then a voice, low and furious. "Let him go." Adrian was there, rain beating on his coat, one hand locked on the man's arm. The grip broke, and Liam stumbled free. The sedan peeled away, tires screaming, but Adrian didn't chase. He was too busy scanning Liam, making sure he was unhurt. "You said you wouldn't leave," Adrian said, his voice harsher than he meant. "I just wanted," Liam stuttered. "You can't just anything right now," Adrian cut in. "Not until this is over." Back in the SUV, Maya's update was waiting. "Vega made the drop. We were 2 minutes too late. The package is gone." "To Soren?" Adrian asked. "Almost certainly. And if it's what we think." Adrian stared out the rain-streaked window, jaw set. "Then tomorrow's hearing isn't a fight anymore. It's a war." He looked over at Liam, who was staring at his hands, silent. Adrian knew the boy had felt the danger for real this time, not as an abstract threat, but as fingers on his wrist, as the smell of car exhaust and fear. And Adrian also knew Soren would use that moment, twist it, and try to make it the last time they stood in the same room together. The city felt unusually still that night, the kind of stillness that didn't mean peace but pressure, like the pause before a storm finally breaks. Adrian was in his study, the desk littered with open files, when Maya stepped in with a single phone in her hand. "It's Soren," she said. "Direct line." Adrian didn't ask how she'd intercepted it. He just took the phone and pressed it to his ear. "Cole," Soren's voice came, smooth as silk over steel. "I thought we should speak man to man, without lawyers getting in the way." "You've had plenty to say through them," Adrian replied. "And tomorrow they'll have plenty more. But here's the thing. You and I both know the judge will lean whichever way the wind's blowing. I can make sure that wind isn't aimed at you." Adrian's grip on the phone tightened. "And in return?" "Simple. You hand the boy over. Quietly. We call it a voluntary transfer to a private guardian. No ugly headlines, no drawn-out fight. You keep your empire intact, your name clean, and I walk away from this with what I came for." "You think you can buy him like an acquisition?" Adrian asked, voice low. "Not buy. Trade. I give you certainty, you give me the kid. He'll be taken care of, better than you can manage while you're dodging bullets, literal and figurative." Adrian let the silence stretch.
No.
Soren's chuckle was low, almost pitying. You'll regret that. Tomorrow morning, I drop something you won't be able to scrub from the front page. Think of it as my insurance policy. The line went dead. When Adrian walked into the living room, Liam was curled on the couch with the telescope across his knees, not looking at the stars but at the reflection of the city lights on the glass. You heard that, didn't you? Adrian asked. Liam's eyes flicked toward him. Enough. He wants me. He wants to use you, Adrian corrected. Does it matter? If I go with him, he stops going after you. Adrian sat beside him. That's not how it works. Men like Soren don't stop. They just find new ways to take. Liam was quiet for a long time. Then, if you lose tomorrow, what happens to me? The question landed heavier than any threat Soren could make. Adrian didn't lie. If I lose, they'll take you. But I'm not going to lose. You can't promise that, Liam said, his voice low but steady. No, Adrian admitted. But I can promise I'll fight until I can't stand any more. Something in Liam's expression shifted. Not trust, not yet, but the faintest flicker of belief. Near midnight, Maya came back into the study, her face pale under the desk lamp's glow. We've got a problem. My contact in the media just tipped me. Soren's people are feeding a story to every major outlet. It's going live at 6 a.m. tomorrow, an hour before court. What story? Adrian asked. She hesitated. They've got doctored footage. Makes it look like you threatened Liam during the incident at the penthouse. If it runs, it'll frame you as dangerous to him, and it'll be the only thing anyone's talking about when we walk into that courtroom. Adrian leaned back in his chair, exhaling slowly. Then we have until dawn to kill it. Maya nodded. And we're going to have to get creative. Outside, the city's lights shimmered on wet streets, unaware, or maybe uninterested, that by morning, one boy's future might be decided by which story reached the world first. The city felt unusually still that night, the kind of stillness that didn't mean peace but pressure, like the pause before a storm finally breaks. Adrian was in his study, the desk littered with open files, when Maya stepped in with a single phone in her hand. It's Soren, she said. Direct line. Adrian didn't ask how she'd intercepted it. He just took the phone and pressed it to his ear. Cole, Soren's voice came, smooth as silk over steel. I thought we should speak man to man, without lawyers getting in the way. You've had plenty to say through them, Adrian replied. And tomorrow they'll have plenty more. But here's the thing. You and I both know the judge will lean whichever way the wind's blowing. I can make sure that wind isn't aimed at you. Adrian's grip on the phone tightened. And in return? Simple. You hand the boy over. Quietly. We call it a voluntary transfer to a private guardian. No ugly headlines, no drawn-out fight. You keep your empire intact, your name clean, and I walk away from this with what I came for. You think you can buy him like an acquisition? Adrian asked, voice low. Not buy. Trade. I give you certainty, you give me the kid. He'll be taken care of, better than you can manage while you're dodging bullets, literal and figurative. Adrian let the silence stretch. No. Soren's chuckle was low, almost pitying. You'll regret that. Tomorrow morning, I drop something you won't be able to scrub from the front page. Think of it as my insurance policy. The line went dead. When Adrian walked into the living room, Liam was curled on the couch with the telescope across his knees, not looking at the stars but at the reflection of the city lights on the glass. You heard that, didn't you? Adrian asked. Liam's eyes flicked toward him. Enough. He wants me. He wants to use you, Adrian corrected. Does it matter? If I go with him, he stops going after you. Adrian sat beside him. That's not how it works. Men like Soren don't stop. They just find new ways to take. Liam was quiet for a long time. Then, if you lose tomorrow, what happens to me? The question landed heavier than any threat Soren could make. Adrian didn't lie. If I lose, they'll take you. But I'm not going to lose. You can't promise that, Liam said, his voice low but steady. No, Adrian admitted. But I can promise I'll fight until I can't stand any more. Something in Liam's expression shifted. Not trust, not yet, but the faintest flicker of belief. Near midnight, Maya came back into the study, her face pale under the desk lamp's glow. "We've got a problem. My contact in the media just tipped me. Soren's people are feeding a story to every major outlet. It's going live at 6 a.m. tomorrow, an hour before court." "What story?" Adrian asked. She hesitated. "They've got doctored footage. Makes it look like you threatened Liam during the incident at the penthouse. If it runs, it'll frame you as dangerous to him, and it'll be the only thing anyone's talking about when we walk into that courtroom." Adrian leaned back in his chair, exhaling slowly. "Then we have until dawn to kill it." Maya nodded. "And we're going to have to get creative." Outside, the city's lights shimmered on wet streets, unaware, or maybe uninterested, that by morning, one boy's future might be decided by which story reached the world first.